Let me tell you why everyone is fed up with gaming nowadays. See, we all need an escape from our daily lives. For some, it's books or movies, but for us, it's video games. And unfortunately, we're living in a time where the price of existing has gone up, from shelter and transportation to food and basic necessities. Our dollar no longer has the same power it did years ago, and we are now also being reminded of that within the world we choose to escape to. Publishers are telling us costs are rising, and as such, they're unable to deliver us a complete, stable experience. And while buying a game used to give you access to the entire amusement park, now $70 sometimes feels like it's just the entrance fee, and we need to accept being bombarded by vendors constantly pestering us to buy new trinkets. Publishers are trying to convince us to accept this new normal and forget about the way things used to be. Accept that it's now normal for a game to release in a broken state, and it's also normal for publishers to act like they were just as surprised as you by the awful state that it launched in. It's also normal to use a review embargo to help you hide the awful state that your game is in, and then years later gaslight you into thinking the launch was better than it was received. It's normal for a large number of items to be designed and developed, but the most compelling be locked behind an additional paywall. And it's also normal to add content into a game that doesn't actually fit or even make sense as long as it generates revenue. It's normal to hire people to consult on a game in order to implement visuals, sounds, and mechanics that keep you addicted to playing and spending money. It's normal to pay to have an advantage in a game, and it's also normal that none of that carry over to the game they sell you next year. It's normal that a game remains connected to the internet. It's definitely not because that connection is needed for you to see that new $25 skin that was added to the shop. And by the way, it's now normal that 2 to 3 skins equal or exceed the full amount of the game you're buying them for. Because it's normal that a full-fledged original character is actually cheaper than a skin in the same exact game. It's normal for a CEO to tell fans that they hate NFTs not because of their predatory application, but because they play games to have fun. Apparently a foreign concept in video game entertainment. It's normal to remove in-game progression and replace it with a battle pass, so you have the privilege of paying me now for content you can earn later, ensuring that you'll keep coming back to my game or risk losing your money. It's like pay me now for a bucket of chicken, but you can only get a drumstick every time you come in and mop the floor. See, it's normal to tell your fans not to worry. The game isn't shutting down. There's more content coming, and then shutting it down 6 months later. Because it's normal to introduce a game, take a bunch of your money, and then shut down servers while promising to bring it back at some point, but not give you an option to get your money back. Because it's normal that over 50 games have been shut down this year alone, and it's also normal that you weren't refunded a penny, even if the game was single player. It's also normal that the digital version is the same price as the physical version, even though it's cheaper for them to deliver it to you. And of course, it's also normal that you don't actually own the digital version. It's normal that when a new version of a game is released, that the old one gets deleted. It's normal that games aren't available for purchase anymore and instead must be rented via a monthly or yearly fee. See, it's normal to allow profits to drive design decisions and dictate in-game economies because the minority whales spend enough money to satisfy publishers and overshadow the majority who just want to play games. And it's normal to take a single-player team and tell them to make a service game filled with microtransactions, but then change direction and not delay the game that's now not ready for release and just release it anyway. And unlike Baldur's Gate 3, it's normal to not give you too much freedom in content, or else you'll be playing the same game for years, which means they can't sell you another version next year. And this all comes down to a single word: respect. Publishers no longer respect your time. They no longer respect how many hours you worked to spend $70. They don't respect something as simple as being able to play a game without worrying that all of the time you put in will be yeeted into the fucking sun because your internet went down. See, if you want to hold your breath waiting for publishers to have a change of heart and ship stable, content-filled, MTX-free games, your head is probably going to explode into a million pieces. And the success of Baldur's Gate 3 is not enough to get companies to change because a lot of game development suffers from that same internal struggle. Developers want nothing more than to ship you a stable, feature-rich game, complete with replayability and a built-in progression system that rewards you for your time. But they're up against their biggest nemesis, men in suits that need a seventh car for the drive to their winter house and a third yacht to sail to the summer house. Developers are now working longer hours and not being properly compensated, yet executives are making more than ever. According to a 2022 report, the average salary of an EA staffer was $124,000 in 2020, while CEO Andrew Wilson received $34.7 million. Take-Two CEO Strauss Zelnick's bonuses are tied to microtransactions, and in the last 3 months of 2021, Take-Two generated $548 million in recurring consumer spending, and it was more than it made from the sale of full games. So he's incentivized to find new ways to monetize their games. Look at his illustration shown on his management agreement that ranges from 0, if he obtains 80% of his target, all the way up to $13.2 million if he obtains 150% of that target. That's why I'm a bit skeptical about Rockstar purchasing the team behind the role-playing servers that have kept their game relevant, and choose not to instantly praise their goodwill, but rather be reminded that RCS targets are the difference between nothing and a brand new mansion. PlayStation is well known for their epic single-player experiences, but even they aren't immune to the Song of Prophet sirens, and it's hard for them to ignore when Sony executives see in 2022, Genshin Impact developers HoYoverse made a bigger profit than the entire PlayStation division. And just like that, there are now 12 different live service games in development, and by fiscal year 2025, their budgets will exceed traditional games. Naughty Dog's Last of Us multiplayer game has been delayed, and according to Bloomberg, it was due to an assessment by Bungie, who shared concerns that the game wouldn't be able to keep players engaged for a long period of time, which kind of sounds like code for we need to keep players in order to keep payers. And while I think the majority of PlayStation releases are worth the price of admission, I think it's healthy to be concerned about their live service future. See, money is the only language these companies understand. Buying and promoting games such as Baldur's Gate 3 that respect your time and money is important, but not as important as rejecting anti-consumer practices and choosing not to give money to companies who don't respect your time, because no one should ever have to feel like they need to pay more for the privilege of having fun. Like it if you liked it, please subscribe if you loved it, and share this video. It helps the channel, and tell me down below how you really feel. Thank you so much for watching.